Hello, thank you for joining us for Teaser in 20. My name is Danielle Dickinson. I'm here with my partner in crime and today's guest, Danielle Ancona.
Hey,
Hello. How are you doing today?
good. I'm enjoying being on vacation and getting to be the guest instead of one of the hosts.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
The turn of events.
yeah, yep. So it's good.
Yeah. So I've actually gotten to read some of this
Uh-huh.
now that I have had time at work in between breaks and stuff. Not as far along as I would like, but you know,
That's life.
it's life, and it's an amazing story so far. I'm just enjoying every minute of being able to read it.
Thank
Sometimes,
you.
yeah, no problem. I wish I had longer lunches and breaks so I could just sit there and read, but they won't like that.
Well, I hope you're reading in front of other people and they see the cover and they're asking you about it.
Oh wow, see, that would be awesome. No, no, I'm just reading on my phone, so I'm just hunched over my
Oh,
phone, sitting there
oh
going,
wow. Darn.
yeah.
Free advertising.
Well, I should put up like a big screen, like in front of it.
Yeah.
Says, this is what I'm reading. That, that'd be cool.
I would pay you to do that.
That'd be cool. That would actually be kind of. But the problem is though, is that because we're still on COVID
Yeah.
lockdown type stuff, there's maybe like me and a couple of other people in the office, and I've already told them all about what I do in your book
Oh,
and
thank
stuff
you.
like that. So hopefully it sticks.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll
I can't
see.
I can't beat him over the head with it, but
I
as
was
much as I'd
actually
like to.
I was actually thinking about sending you magnets to put on your car doors to drive around.
That would be like those big like
Yeah.
Domino's ones. That'd be perfect. That'd be awesome.
Actually, I should order some for myself too.
Yeah,
But
because
anyhow.
there's been a lot of times like there was recently that I was sitting at a stoplight and there was this weird logo that somebody had thrown on there with a website, and I was like, I'm tempted to see what that is. And it's the only time that I've actually been like, I should take a look at this. I didn't. The light changed and I turned
Yeah.
it off. But that was, yeah, it works. So I mean, if I was gonna do it, and somebody
I might
surely
try it
would
as a test
throw it on the
to
back of your
see.
car or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, heck yeah,
Yeah, the back is good for
yeah,
traffic lights. I
yeah.
might try it. You should read ... Or hey, I wrote this book and I live in Pittsburgh where you live. But
You should also get it where you can include the QR thing,
yeah,
so it automatically takes whomever takes a picture of it to the website.
that's a good idea. I'm going to try that. Actually, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to write that down right now as an idea.
Because that was something
So,
I had thought of, and I think I talked to Lazar about it, uh, and he had actually already done that, and I was like, oh, it works. Um, but yeah, because of the whole COVID stuff, I was like, that would be awesome to just go and hand those things out or post it somewhere, and people could just
yes.
go up and take a picture, and automatically takes you to the book or whatever.
Yeah, people don't want things handed to them right now.
You
And
know?
actually, it's kind of disheartening because when you call Barnes and Noble, it used to be that with Kai Night, we would be able to get 25 books in and do a book signing. But now they bring in 4 books. And if they move, then they'll bring in 4 more. And
Oh,
so it goes on. So I'll be doing a book buying at Barnes and Noble with my local store
mm,
campaign for my friends where I live in Pittsburgh.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So tell us about your marketing approach. I know to me, you're one of my heroes in that aspect.
Oh, well, I need to get it back on the rails. It's been off the rails for a couple weeks, but I am going to be hitting Goodreads hard. I am trying to focus my, thank you for saying that, by the way, my marketing on readers. And I've been talking to a lot of readers in my area where I live. And I've been able to move a lot of books around me locally from that perspective. And they're talking to other readers,
Nice.
which that's starting to grow. And especially now that we have some issues taken care of, they'll start doing that in earnest. And I think that's going to mushroom, to be honest, from what they were telling me, those particular readers. My other marketing approach has been to, I am contacting several book reviewers and book bloggers because they have readers that follow them. And that's a ton of work. It takes a lot of time. You want
Yeah.
your email to be warm and inviting and personal. I go and look at their websites and I see what they're interested in. And I really do, in a sincere effort, try to tailor my email to their likes and reach out in that way. So that's been another marketing approach. And on Instagram, I am doing, I'm ramping it up more this week, but a lot of historical and mythological references, and also on Twitter, to pull in those types of readers. So I'll do hashtags for mythological fiction readers and historical fiction readers. I think a lot of us writers get, it's really nice to be part of the writing community, and
Yeah.
it's a very welcoming community, and I'm so thankful to be part of it. But I think sometimes we get distracted by trying to market to that community as opposed to the reading community. And I think we really need to consciously think about, that's who we need to really think about and be thankful for, is the reading community,
Right.
and reach out to them. So my audience would be historical fiction, mythological fiction, and epic type of adventure, fantasy, and low fantasy. So I'm actually fortunate in that I have a wide array of genre, and also alchemy, wide array of genres to appeal to various readers, and I feel very lucky for that. I didn't write it with that intent. I wrote it from my heart, something that I've wanted to write, but it just happens to have that reach. The other part is that my book also speaks very strongly to the sciences and how they have evolved how these sciences have evolved over the centuries. So it will appeal to science readers. So I'm also reaching out to those, and women of science.
That's
So
good.
I'm going to be appealing to that genre, or those types of readers as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very good. Definitely having a wide branch of available readers helps. And
Right.
I think this book, from what I've read so far, it definitely appeals to those. I mean, because like I said, I was just sucked into it from the beginning,
Thank you.
wanting to finish reading it. But
And I don't want anybody to read it and feel like it was written that way. It wasn't. I want it to be an engrossing and enthralling story
yeah,
that truly is an escape. And but it's just enjoyable to that type of person, because it has something in it that's very appealing to them from their personal likes and passions.
definitely. So how did you come up with the story? What, you said it came from the heart. Well, what triggered it? What brought you down that path to write the story?
I've always had an interest in history, and I've always had an interest in the sciences and in alchemy. Alchemy, when you really break it down, um, has chemistry, has very deep roots in alchemy, and Paracelsus is an alchemist who developed the scientific methodology, and also he is considered the father of toxicology, which, if anybody knows me well, they know I also work in the oncology field, and toxicology is hugely important in oncology because we are giving toxic drugs, and we really walk a fine line between toxic doses and doses that a patient can tolerate, that will also fight their current condition. And that's also true for people with autoimmune conditions too. And so that toxicology piece is so important to me. And reading about this has just made me even more passionate, and how it developed within the field of alchemy. I also have a very deep belief in the ethereal side of things. And I find that many oncology nurses do. And I think it's because we become so deeply in touch with our patients, and we see that spiritual side, and we see a lot of things happen that and are witness to them that maybe don't always have a logical explanation, or they could, but um, you really get in touch with another side of a person or events that a lot of other people don't have the privilege of seeing. So that combination of science and ethereal piece, which alchemy also has the deep roots in, because think of Aristotle and the fifth element, that's ether, the unseen, and it was used to explain that which moved things through the universe that you could not see, or
Right.
through the current world. So all of that really appeals to me. Also, taking the academic side of things and balancing them against the Judeo-Christian theologies, and then taking mythology as it evolved, which people very strongly followed in Greek and as we all know, Greek and Egyptian mythological figures, and throughout the world. They had a very strong belief in those figures.
Yeah.
And so I've always wanted to be able to pair them with our traditional knowledge of Judeo-Christian figures. And I did that in this book, and they become unlikely alliances. And so it has given some colorful side, or it's given colorful action to the writing, and pieces of the story that and how would the celestial figures look at the Greek and Egyptian mythological figures, because they're very close to humans in terms of how they react to things and how they decide to deal with things, as opposed to the celestial figures.
Right.
So that's how. So taking all of that together is what inspired me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, for me, when I came up with my novels and stuff, where to go, it started off at a young age. Did you always kind of have this stuff in mind when you were
Yes.
growing up, or?
Yep. Definitely.
Was there like a turning point? Was there like a ha-ha moment, I'm going to do this at some point, or?
When I turned 50. It was like, either I'm going to do this or I'm not. And I just decided that I've been wanting to write forever. I've been writing in many ways, but either I'm going to write this series or I'm not, and I'm really going to make an effort to become a writer, or I'm not. And so at 50, I did start writing in earnest, and I'm not going to say how far beyond 50 I am, but it's a fair amount. And I just hope I don't look that way.
Nope.
And that's good.
I thought 40.
Thank you. And so that was my turning point of, it's now or never.
Right.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you can start writing at the age of 70. That's not that there's a cutoff point, but I really wanted to have time to be able to grow and share. The other piece is that as an oncology nurse, I work with people that need escape, and I wanted to write an escape for them. And so that's part of this, is there in my heart as well, something that they could just dive into and forget about their world and be pulled into another person's world. There are trials in this book. There are some triumphs. Some of them are great. Some of them are small. But it very much in some ways follows a lot of the track that type of person might find themselves following, entering that type of life event. And so I want them to see that. I wanted them to have escape in that, and not be reminded of it, of what they were going through, but also be able to see some really interesting ways of dealing with it and ultimate triumph, one way or another. So to me, escapism was huge and making it fun. So there's a lot of adventure in this book, and to me, adventure is fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So who is Malachi?
Malachi is kind of like the James Dean of Warrior Angels. he's a rebel with a cause.
Nice.
You know, he is sardonic. He's dark. He very much would rather hang out with the Greek deities and Egyptian deities than they would the celestial figures. And if you can imagine, the celestials are not a real big fan of that.
I noticed.
Yeah, they look rather askance at him. And he is a phenomenal warrior, a phenomenal leader of his legions, and makes really good. He's a very good strategist. And so they the Celestials decide that they don't want him around in Celestia anymore. So they and also some things happened where they considered some of his statements to be blasphemy, but they also didn't want to get rid of him either. It would be horrendous if he went to the other side. He would turn into just a beyond terrible enemy if he went to the other side. And B, his sense of strategy is bar none. So keep him on the correct side. But he also is very loyal to mankind and loyal to the cause. So I don't think he would have anyway. But he's bitter because of their lack of respect for him. He feels that they should respect him in spite of his unorthodox view of things. So that is Malachi pretty much in a nutshell.
So who influenced him? Anybody besides James Dean?
I'm going to say several people,
Okay.
and also probably partly me to some extent. I think a lot of me is in Malachi, and then a lot of the people that you have read about in various action and adventure movies that kind of don't always follow the rules, but end up they're not reckless. He's not reckless, but they end up doing a lot to kind of pull their weight and pull things through. So I don't want him to be considered reckless either, because he's not. But he is unorthodox for sure. But a lot of me is definitely in Malachi.
Nice.
Yeah. This is from chapter 2, which takes place in 463 BCE, the temple of the goddess Artemis at the foot of Mount Olympus, Greece. And I'm diving into the middle of the chapter. Malachi beheld the celestial in his gaze, anger emanating from his glittering dark eyes. Smoldering fury rode his voice as he spoke. Celestials' contempt of the gods of the Nile and Mount Olympus only encourages them even more to consider joining the seraph. The seraph promised the gods respect which they do not receive from you or any of Celestia. Bia is a coup for them, as she is the goddess of force and power. He leaned in toward the celestial being, his voice dropping to a low, contemptuous tone. The way you saw fit to treat my soldier, who lays his life on the line on your behalf, sickens me. Malachi's eyes narrowed in his fury. I blame this recruitment of the gods on your celestial sanctimony as much as I blame Gideon and his viper's promises. Catherine hissed in a breath at Malachi's daring comment, shooting a surreptitious gaze towards the celestial. Rare goosebumps covered her arms as yellow beams of light from the obscured eyes of the celestial flared at the being's obvious annoyance. You are indeed bold to express your opinion, Malachi. I warn you to tread lightly. The celestial's contralto voice issued from her light-shrouded countenance, sounding as though she were speaking in a tunnel. We existed long before gods, angels, and humans. We helped to shape the creation of the earth and ether and all in between. She paused as her light suffused countenance pulsed. There is much you do not and will never understand. Malachi looked down at the maps, his jaw working with vexation. He rubbed the back of his neck. We shall await Josiah's plans, then finalize the mission and recover Artemis. After taking a deep breath, Malachi brought Catherine and the Celestial back into his gaze. Do we want to consider bringing Bia back with us? I think we should, Malachi, Catherine responded. We may not ever be this close to her again. She has the potential to create strong leverage for the Seraph to be more attractive to other gods and deities to join with them. I believe I can capture Bia if you assign me a contingent of 6 warriors. That will free you to concentrate on the recovering of Artemis. Malachi nodded and said, I have no doubt you'll be effective, Catherine. If you would agree, I will send 8 men with you. This will be a difficult mission, Malachi. While we need to keep the number of warriors to a minimum to avoid drawing attention, I think it wise to take your additional men. I am in shock. A new voice arose in the gathering. Malachi and Catherine turned towards the inflection they both knew so well. The golden archangel Raphael appeared, resplendent in his gilt armor, his snow-white tunic blinding in the desert sun as he joined their circle. Who would have ever thought we'd be witness to Catherine agreeing to one of our suggestions? Raphael asked as he stepped into the circle about the table. Catherine greeted Raphael with a hot flash of her deep topaz lioness eyes. Ignoring Catherine's umbrage, he nodded in greeting to the luminous celestial. Raphael, the ethereal figure intoned in her Empyrean voice. Raphael turned and clasped Malachi in a warrior's embrace, then looked to Catherine and started to step toward her. She lifted a finely arched brow. Her eloquent, icy silence and stare stopped him better than her holding her spear in front of herself could have. He stepped back and simply said, Catherine. Malachi pulled a hand over his chin to wipe a grin from his face. Some things never change, he thought, including their rivalry and bond like that of siblings. He turned to the charts and drew in everyone's attention to the missions at hand. The Grecian earth cooled under the darkening skies. Stealthy in their soft steps and whispered conversation, Josiah and his commanders spirited Artemis back to her own temple. Led by the disheveled goddess to her lavish throne of entwined trees and vines, Josiah handed Artemis her bow and arrows after she stepped onto the dais. The green leaves woven through her sovereign seat firmed and brightened, rustling as she sat. With a wave of her hand, the thick woodlands which surrounded the perimeter of her temple murmured and thickened to obscure them from outsiders. Torches within lit of their own accord, their flames wavering in the balmy breeze. She held Josiah under her intrepid forest green gaze. I thank you and your warriors and my father thanks you. This shall not be forgotten. Josiah nodded. I know it frustrated Catherine that her mission to retrieve Bia from the Seraph proved unsuccessful. I, however, am grateful that we lost none of our warriors in this battle, and that Kratos did not follow his sister into the Seraph fold. Bia is now indelibly Seraph. She would have betrayed us, and any loss would have been in vain. As for your gratitude, it is appreciated, goddess, but it is our duty to protect those not allegiant to the Seraph at all cost. Indeed, it is our duty. Malachi's deep voice preceded his entrance into Artemis's temple. He inhaled with deep appreciation as he stepped into the midst of her forest. Mother Earth is strong here, Goddess Artemis, and Sister Moon shines her favor upon us from the heavens above. Artemis's smile shined through the grime smattered across her face. The forces you command have set a high bar for all other. Mother Earth and Sister Moon, Malachi? The celestial from earlier in the day appeared behind the warrior angel with malice in her voice. Josiah turned toward the celestial and blinked against the being's bright light. What of it, celestial? Malachi asked as he inclined his head in defiance. The bright yellow beam shining from where the celestial's eyes would be brightened. What of it? This is blasphemous from a celestial being, Malachi. You are an angel. She paused. Or have you forgotten? I believe you may very well have neglected to recall from whence you came, and with as much as you make yourself familiar with the gods of Olympus. Her bright golden beam shifted to Artemis, then landed again upon Malachi, and of the Nile. Familiarity? Blasphemy? You dare accuse me of blasphemy? I more than dare, Malachi. I will be taking this to the 5. The celestial disappeared, her imperious threat echoing through the temple after her bright presence had vanished. Artemis stepped off her dais, tread over to Malachi, and laid her hand upon his greaves-encased muscular forearm. My apologies that you have been addressed in such a manner on my behalf. Malachi clasped her proffered hand. Goddess, you have experienced enough distress this day. Do not vex yourself further. The celestials seem intent to pass judgment on my communion with our Mother Earth, no matter what the situation.
Very nice.
I skipped the battle with Artemis and the bear because I didn't want to take up too much time.
I noticed. I was like, whoa, that was a jump.
So there is a great battle in the middle of that, but I thought that would give a good insight into Malachi since you had asked about him.
Yep, indeed.
I do have Greek and Egyptian mythological figures richly throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
I have alchemy woven throughout the book and a lot of history and some historical figures. There's a lot more historical figures in book 2, which is being written right now. And women of science are woven through the book as well, which is really cool. My author inspirations are Michael Crichton and Tom Clancy. Tom Clancy has he has an amazing way of taking technical information and just weaving it through the story. And I really made an effort to do that because I do cover a fair amount of technical or scientific type things, alchemy type things, and I wanted them to be just woven into the story as opposed to an information drop. The other person that that is a huge inspiration to me is a paranormal adventure romance author by the name of Cresley Cole, who has just a cast of characters that's very colorful, very engaging, and also has she has a master's degree in English, and she teaches as well. And she just her writing it just draws you in, and her characters are rich, and my story has been described as character driven.
And I would agree.
Yeah. So and I like that because it really you take those characters to heart, and you just keep turning the pages because you want to see what happens next.
Right.
And so she's been very inspiring to me through that. So I do make it a point to stay away from, even though Malachi is very strong, he is not your typical alpha male. My male and female characters are on equal footing throughout the entire story. And that is not a gratuitous equal footing. That is a true equal footing, intellectually and physically, in battle and in conversation. That was really important to me to make sure that occurred. I didn't want that sense, even though there's elements of romance in the story. There's a strong sense of an equal amount of respect between the characters throughout all of these interactions, no matter what their sexual orientation is, and so on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Indeed. So one more question, and if we have to, we'll split this into 2. When you're dealing with deities and stuff like that, how did you impart weaknesses? Like what did you make sure that like XYZ character had to be afraid of spiders, or there's something that brought them back down to have them more relatable?
So I really thought about how they were in their particular situation and the challenges they were facing, and what their reactions to the challenges would be, as well as the other people around them and were reacting to them. And so there are a fair amount of weaknesses brought up in that. they're all very different. So it's not that I deliberately tried to think of a weakness so much as how are they reacting to their situation, and how is this going to add to the story, and how would someone who is their character that I know react to the situation. And I wrote that into the story. And a lot of that does involve some weakness and strengths and weaknesses. So it's very sincere, and it's very real, and it's writing. And then the character approaches.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good deal.
I would like
Do
to
you have anything
say
else?
that,
Yeah, go for
yeah,
it.
as far as plotting goes, I did have the story very well plotted. But as I did my research, I was
Research.
pulled down. There's a lot of research when you're doing this type of story, when you're involving alchemy and history
Yeah.
and deities. Oh my God, the research is unbelievable. But I got pulled down a ton of rabbit holes.
I
And
bet.
those rabbit holes oftentimes were serendipitous, in that they often led to a great secondary character or a great plot twist. So there was rabbit holes that drove the story and drove characters as well, and there was some pantsing. So it was definitely a hybrid model between all three of those. Plotting, rabbit holes, and pantsing is what drove what drove the story. But I really did try to make sure that all my loose ends got tied up through that. And I used beta readers like crazy to make sure those are tied up. And also I did have someone do a manuscript review for me, because this is so, it's not complex to the reader. I really tried hard for it not to be complex to the reader, but it was complex in its writing. And I want the reader to just escape into the story. So I made a very deliberate choice to make sure that the person reading it doesn't feel that they are stuck in a complex story. But I hired someone to do a manuscript review for me, and who's very experienced at it. And she identified 5 loose ends that my beta readers and my editor had not identified, that I was able to go back and tie up. And I was very thankful for that, because I feel that really helped make the story very solid then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an escape type book, and it's well written in that aspect, where you can just pick it up and start reading and follow along with what's going on. It's not complicated. It's, the characters are very nice and well developed and well described in their imagery, so they just come right to life, like within a paragraph or and a half maybe, and I had Malachi pictured in my mind, and it was just easy flowing through that.
Thank you. I hear that over and over again, that it is not hard to follow through. So and the characters are not either. And I did some descriptions for the characters, but I also intentionally left some pieces blank, because I wanted people to be able to bring a picture into their head and use that picture. And also I didn't want to bring any stereotypes from society into this book either.
Right.
I want people to be comfortable reading this and enjoy it, and just be able to, as I said, escape into it, and not have any pieces of preconceived notion as to how someone should look in the story. So I think as they may not even realize it while they're reading it, and that's actually a gift. But there's some pieces of the description that are left out intentionally for that reason.
Yeah, and you did a well job weaving all that together.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem. So let's wrap this up.
It releases November 4th.
Oh yeah, it does, doesn't it? Coming up.
If you read it, I hope you review it, and it's an honest review.
Yeah,
and
it's gonna get reviewed.
Okay. And I hope that I'm glad to hear that for you, and it's an escape too, that time just kind of flies while you're in it.
It does. Lunches just go whoosh, and I'm like, oh, but I'm not done yet.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
All right. Well, thank you very much. My name is Danielle Dickinson, and Teaser in 20. This is my co-host and guest today,
Danielle Ancona.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for being here, and hopefully we'll see you back for the second one.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You're stuck
Yeah.
with me. Sorry.
Sweet.
All right.
Have a good night.
Take care. You too.